Washington's army into chaos. Thousands of American soldiers are now trapped, encircled by 20,000 enemy troops. Independence, declared just 5 weeks ago, is about to be crushed. Then, fewer than 400 men from the 1st Maryland Regiment, young farmers and merchants volunteer for a suicide mission. Hold the line. Buy time for the army to escape. The final hour is a terrifying last stand. This is the story of how the Maryland 400 saved Washington's army and the American Revolution itself. April 19th, 1775. Lexington and Concord, the first shots of the American Revolution. What began as a raid on colonial weapons quickly spiraled into open warfare. 2 months later came the carnage of Bunker Hill. The British won, but paid a devastating price, over 1,000 casualties, their costliest engagement of the entire war. The colonists had proved they could stand and fight against the world's most powerful army. For nearly a year, General George Washington laid siege to Boston. Finally, in March of 1776, British commander General William Howe is forced to evacuate, sailing north to Nova Scotia to regroup. Washington had won his first major victory, but he knew this was far from over. The British would return. The question was, where? Washington predicted that the next target would be New York. The city's deep-water ports could supply and anchor the entire British fleet. Control New York, and you control the Hudson River, splitting New England from the rest of the colonies. Sever it, and the rebellion would be cut in half. In April of 1776, Washington relocated his fledgling Continental Army and began fortifying New York. But New York presented problems Boston never had. The terrain was a nightmare. Islands, rivers, and waterways were everywhere, and the Americans had no navy to defend them. The British fleet could strike from any direction. Worse, New York was a loyalist stronghold. Nearly half the population supported the crown. Loyalists in the countryside were actively working against Washington, intercepting vital messages and capturing supplies. Spies were everywhere. Trust was scarce. Washington assumed they'd strike Manhattan directly, but he makes a critical mistake. He divides his army, 19,000 men, scattered across multiple positions. The bulk stay on Manhattan to defend the city. A smaller force, just 4,500 men, are sent across the East River to Long Island. In early July 1776, General Howe returned. A massive British armada, growing to over 300 ships, arrives off Staten Island. The largest expeditionary force ever assembled by the British Empire. Packed aboard are more than 32,000 soldiers, British regulars, Scottish Highlanders, and thousands of German Hessian mercenaries. Leading them are some of Britain's most experienced commanders, including Lord Cornwallis and Sir Henry Clinton. 2 days later, on July 4th, the Continental Congress in Philadelphia signs the Declaration of Independence. When news of independence reaches New York, Washington gathers his troops to hear the declaration read aloud in the public square. The men cheered, bells rang, and for a brief moment, anything seemed possible. That night, a mob descended and tore down the massive equestrian statue of King George III. Cutting off the king's head, they mount it on a spike outside a local tavern. The rest of the statue is then melted down and cast into musket balls. The tyrant king transformed into bullets for his own army. But across the harbor on Staten Island, the celebration looked very different. British officers watched the bonfires and heard the distant cheers. They weren't worried. They knew what Washington was trying to hold together. The Continental Army was barely an army at all. Most were militia farmers and tradesmen who'd never fired a shot in anger. They drilled poorly, if they drilled at all. Desertions were constant. Disease tore through the camps, Dysentery, smallpox, typhus. Men were dying faster than they could be replaced. Worse still, the army was fractured by colonial rivalries. Massachusetts men wouldn't take orders from Virginia officers. New Yorkers distrusted New Englanders. Regiments bickered over supplies, rank, and territory. But the 1st Maryland Regiment is different. While most Continental soldiers drilled poorly and fought in rags, the Marylanders were well paid, well trained, and looked like professionals. Crisp uniforms, blue coats and red facings, and hunting shirts for field dress. They carried polished muskets and something almost no other American unit had: bayonets. Real steel that could turn a musket into a spear in close combat. They were young, averaging barely 21 years of age, sons of wealthy merchants, apprentice clerks, a few plantation owners, recruited mainly from the port city of Baltimore and the colonial capital of Annapolis. When they joined Washington's army in New York, they were mockingly called the macaronis, dandies, pretty boys in fancy uniforms. But to the Hessians, seeing the hunting shirts meant one thing: American sharpshooters. 700 strong, the Maryland Regiment was commanded by Colonel William Smallwood, but Smallwood would be unexpectedly called away to oversee a court-martial, with command falling to General William Alexander, who styled himself Lord Stirling after a disputed Scottish title. Major Mordecai Gist, a Baltimore native, leads the regiment. Positioned on Long Island, these elite troops anchored the American right flank near Brooklyn. They had no idea what was coming. On August 22nd, the British made their move, but not toward New York. 4,000 British troops, led by Sir Henry Clinton and Lord Cornwallis, land unopposed on Long Island. Within hours, 15,000 troops are ashore, alongside 40 pieces of artillery. Hundreds of loyalists swarm the beach to greet them as liberators. Word reaches Washington in New York, but the report is wrong. His scouts estimate only 8,000 troops had landed. Washington is convinced this is a feint. The real attack would come at Manhattan. So he sends a meager 1,500 reinforcements to Brooklyn, totaling the American forces on Long Island to 6,000 men. The American defense is centered across the Guan Heights, a 150-foot ridge of hills, blocking the direct route to fortifications at Brooklyn. 3 main passes through the heights, Gowanus, Flatbush, and Bedford, are heavily guarded. By stationing men on the higher ground, heavy casualties could be inflicted on the British before the troops would fall back to the main defenses. General Israel Putnam commands Brooklyn Heights. Lord Stirling and his Marylanders and the 1st Delaware Regiment hold the American right at Gowanus Pass with 1,600 men, and Major General John Sullivan, commander of the force on Long Island, holds the center with 1,500 men. Colonel Samuel Miles and his Pennsylvania Rifle Regiment holding the hill to the east at around 500 men. But there is a 4th route, the Jamaica Pass, far to the east. A local loyalist informs General Clinton of the route, patrolled by just 4 militia officers on horseback. Clinton sees the opportunity. General Howe approves. On August 26th, at 9 p.m., under cover of darkness, 10,000 British troops begin a night march toward the Jamaica Pass. It is one of the most audacious gambles of the war. The column stretches over 2 miles. An advance party is led by Clinton, followed by Cornwallis and General Howe. They leave their campfires burning behind them to deceive the Americans. If discovered, the whole operation would collapse. 10,000 men strung out in the darkness on a narrow country road, unable to form battle lines, left them vulnerable. But the Americans had no idea. Around 2 a.m. on August 27th, they reach Howard's Tavern, just outside the Jamaica Pass. British soldiers drag tavern keeper William Howard and his son from their beds at gunpoint. General Howe needed a guide. William Howard refused. "We belong to the other side, General, and can't serve you against our duty." Howe's response was calm and cold. "You have no alternative. If you refuse, I shall shoot you through the head." Howard guides them to the pass. Minutes later, the 4 American militia guarding the pass are captured without a shot, mistaking the approaching troops as fellow Americans. General Howe has maintained the element of surprise. He has flanked the entire American army. Back on the east part of Long Island, at around 1 a.m., 4,000 British troops under General Grant launch a diversionary assault on Sterling's Marylanders at Gowanus Pass, holding them in place. Commanded on the ground by Major Mordecai Gist, twice the British attack the hill, and twice they are repulsed. At 6 a.m., in the center, Hessian artillery begin pounding the heights, but the German troops don't advance. They just sit there, waiting. The Americans think Grant's attack is the main assault. General Sullivan sends 400 men west to reinforce Sterling. The Americans think they are winning. Back in New York, Washington finally realizes his mistake. This wasn't a feint. He races across the East River to Brooklyn Heights to take command. By 7 a.m., Cornwallis's flanking column silently rounds the American position and crushes Colonel Miles's small force, scattering them instantly. Then, at 9 a.m., the situation dramatically changes. General Howe fires 2 heavy cannons, the signal for the Hessian troops to begin their frontal assault against Sullivan. Soon, the 10,000 British troops who'd marched through Jamaica Pass appear on the hilltops behind Sullivan's position. Panic. Sullivan's men are hit from 2 directions at once. Hessians in front, British regulars from behind. The line shatters instantly. Officers scream orders that no one could hear. Men throw down their weapons and run. Others froze, unsure which way to go, and are shot where they stood. The Hessians, driven by rumors that Americans take no prisoners, bayonet groups of surrendering soldiers. Major General Sullivan and many of his troops are captured. Private Joseph Plum Martin, who witnessed the carnage, would later write, "The demons of fear and disorder seemed to take full possession of all and everything that day." By noon, the American middle and left flank had been annihilated. Thousands of Continental soldiers, disorganized, terrified, separated from their officers, fled toward the only sanctuary left, the distant fortifications at Brooklyn Heights. But Cornwallis was faster. His elite regiments, the Black Watch of the 42nd Highlanders, and his grenadiers raced down Gowanus Road and seized the old stone house, the last escape route. Thousands of American soldiers are trapped in what is known as the Killing Box. Behind them, Gowanus Creek, a tidal salt marsh where the mud could swallow a man to his chest. In front, Cornwallis and 2,000 veteran British soldiers blocking the only road to safety. On their flanks, 25,000 more enemy troops are closing in. Major Gist recounts, "Surrounded on all sides, the result was a bloodbath as the Hessians and British Highlanders methodically gave no quarter or mercy." The American Revolution, just 52 days old, is dying on a Brooklyn battlefield. From his command post in Brooklyn Heights, General George Washington watches through his spyglass as his army, the only army America had, is being destroyed. He orders the remaining Americans to retreat, but they are trapped. To reach safety, they would have to cross the deadly 80-yard-wide barrier of the Gowanus Creek Marsh, a marsh that no man has been known to ever cross. If the British reached the creek first, the army would be slaughtered. Someone had to stand between them and the fleeing Americans. Someone had to buy them time. Washington turned to the only organized troops still capable of fighting, the forces under Lord Sterling, the Marylanders and Delawareans. They received their orders: perform a rearguard action, hold the line while their brothers escape. They take their positions, musket smoke blanketing the land. The British press forward, appearing out of nowhere and everywhere through the smoke. With overwhelming numbers, the American detachments begin to crumble. The Delaware lines are overrun. Stirling soon orders their retreat as well. This left Lord Stirling aware that nothing but a diversion of the enemy would save the entire detachment from destruction. Hurrying to the Maryland battalion, he gathers fewer than 400 men. Major Mordecai Gist stands ready. Stirling gave them their mission: launch a suicidal counterattack on the British position at the Old Stone House, where Cornwallis's troops were pouring murderous fire from its windows. The order: hold it at all costs. Hold it until every last American soldier has crossed the Gowanus Marsh to safety. In an act of bravery, Stirling remains behind to fight with Gist's men. The 400 begin their advance. Their muskets crack in disciplined volleys, trying to slow the British surge. But the enemy keeps coming. British muskets erupt in almost solid sheets of lead. Cannons roar. Men fall, but the Marylanders close ranks over their dead and dying comrades and press forward. The first assault is driven back, leaving brothers crumpled on the ground. But something extraordinary happens. These bloodied men don't scatter or flee. They rally. Impossibly, they reform their lines amid the smoke and carnage. They fire another ragged volley, then with fixed bayonets charge again, straight into a wall of fire. Again they are thrown back, their ranks shattered, the ground littered with their fallen. And then they do the unthinkable. They know what another charge means. They had seen it twice already. They know they are not going home. But across that marsh, their brothers are still escaping. A third time, they rise. A third time, they charge. Fewer now, but unbroken. Each step forward a choice. They fire one last devastating volley at point-blank range, then crash into the British lines. The battle erupts into brutal hand-to-hand combat, bayonets thrusting, muskets swinging as clubs. Through smoke and fire, they press forward, not in blind rage, but with love. Outnumbered 10-1, they embrace a truth as old as humanity, that there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for another. As the smoke settles, American muskets fall silent. The cost is staggering, but the line has held. For an astonishing hour, they stopped the entire British advance, buying priceless time for thousands of Washington's men to reach safety. The mission is complete. The price is paid. Washington, watching from Cobble Hill, famously cries out, "Good God, what brave fellows! I must this day lose." Lord Stirling orders the remaining troops to retreat across the swamp. Some of the men who tried to cross are bogged down, only to be killed by British fire. Others who could not swim are captured. Samuel Smith, a 24-year-old captain, describes the ordeal. "I took my company through a marsh until we were stopped by the dam of a mill. It was too deep for the men to ford. I and a sergeant swam over and got 2 slabs of wood into the water, on which we ferried over all who could not swim." Lord Stirling, refusing to surrender his sword to Cornwallis, defiantly surrenders to a Hessian officer. The cost of the hour-long stand was devastating. 256 Marylanders are killed and 100 captured in the combined assaults, wiping out over 60% of the attacking force. One of the largest fatality rates for any battle in American history. Fewer than 12 managed to return back to Washington's camp. Fortunately for Gist, he miraculously survives. For those captured, many will perish from disease and starvation on English prison ships. By the late afternoon of August 27th, the total American losses are over 1,000 dead and wounded, and another 1,000 captured, with British losses under 400 killed and wounded. The army is surviving. The Maryland 400 had broken the trap, but the British are not done. Sir Henry Clinton is ready to make a final assault on Brooklyn. Washington's regrouped forces are pinned down, their backs to the river, with nowhere left to run. The next day, on August 28th, something unexpected happens. The British stop. Their army, poised to deliver the final blow that would crush Washington's forces, hold its position. A terrible rainstorm sweeps across Brooklyn, turning the ground to mud. But weather alone didn't explain the pause. The British commander, William Howe, was haunted by a memory. Bunker Hill. He remembered charging up that blood-soaked slope, the devastating volleys that cut down their men in rows. They had won that battle, but the cost had been terrible. Now, facing another entrenched American position, they hesitate. They would wait. They would do this carefully. Washington seizes the moment. Late in the night, with campfires burning to deceive the enemy, the Continental Army begins to move. Silently, desperately, they slip toward the East River. Boats ferry them across to Manhattan, oars muffled, voices hushed. Every man knows that discovery means annihilation. As dawn approaches, Washington faces a catastrophe. Thousands of men remain on the Brooklyn shore, and daylight would expose them to British cannons and warships. They would be sitting ducks, helpless targets in the morning light. Then, on August 30th, just as the sun begins to rise, an impenetrable fog rolls in from the river, blanketing the entire evacuation. It comes at the precise moment needed, as if God himself has drawn a curtain across the scene. The fog holds. The British see nothing. Boat after boat slips across the water, and there, standing on the Brooklyn shore until the very end, is Washington himself, refusing to leave until every one of his men has escaped. At 7 in the morning, Washington steps onto the last boat. 9,000 men are evacuated. Not a single life is lost in the crossing. The Continental Army survives. The revolution survives. It was nothing short of miraculous. Later that morning, as the fog began to lift, the British woke to an astonishing sight. The American fortifications on Brooklyn are empty. The prize was gone. The war and Washington's army would live to fight another day. Washington's escape would not have been possible without one desperate sacrifice. History calls them Washington's Immortals, the Maryland 400, most barely out of boyhood with an average age of 21, led by Lord Sterling and Major Mordecai Gist. Their repeated charges against overwhelming odds, their refusal to break, even as they were cut down, had held back the British tide long enough for the Americans to reach safety. But the Maryland 400 didn't just save an army, they saved the revolution. Without their sacrifice, there would have been no evacuation, no fog-shrouded escape, no Continental Army to fight another day. The road to independence, to Yorktown, to victory, runs directly through that killing field in Brooklyn, where the Marylanders refused to yield. George Washington never forgot their bravery. He would later call the 1st Maryland Regiment his old line, troops he could depend on when all others broke. That tribute lives on today as Maryland's official nickname, the Old Line State. Their legacy also endures in another way. The 175th Infantry Regiment of the Maryland Army National Guard traces its lineage directly back to the 1st Maryland Regiment and the Maryland 400. On their coat of arms is the bayonet, representing its first introduction to American arms in the Battle of Long Island. The swan head is from the coat of arms of the Gist family, commemorating Major Gist. The bodies of those young Marylanders were never properly buried. They fell where they fought, placed in shallow, unmarked graves, scattered across farmlands that are now the streets of modern Brooklyn. But their sacrifice endures. In Prospect Park today, a monument stands, not over their graves, but over their memory. A reminder of what they did on that desperate day. The Maryland 400 stood when retreat was the only rational choice? Who charged when surrender was inevitable? They gave everything so that a nation struggling to be born might survive. They fell in Brooklyn so that freedom would rise.
If you enjoyed this journey through history, subscribe to Clear and Present History for more documentaries and untold stories from the past. A like or comment helps keep these stories from being forgotten. And if you believe the lessons of history still matter, becoming a supporting member helps us go deeper, funding the research and production that allow us to explore overlooked stories and preserve the hard-won wisdom of the past. From all of us at Clear and Present History and myself, Steve Kristoff, thank you. Until next time.
The 22nd of August, 1776. 4,000 British soldiers in 75 flat-bottomed boats cross the Hudson and land at Gravesend Bay, Long Island. They are welcomed by a jubilant population of loyalists who bring food, supplies, and knowledge of the local terrain. Soon, this force will grow to 20,000. It's been nearly 2 months since General William Howe arrived off New York. Finally, in a trickle of transports and warships from Britain, Ireland, Germany and the Carolinas, his full force has gathered. Howe now commands the largest expeditionary force Britain has ever assembled, and it's ready to be unleashed against the American rebels. His first target: Patriot forces holding a series of ridges around Brooklyn. If they can be defeated, Long Island will fall, New York will be defenseless, and the rebellion could be crushed. In New York City, General George Washington commands 20,000 men of the Continental Army. A few units, like the Delaware Blues and 1st Maryland Regiment, are well drilled and disciplined, but most are under-trained and ill-equipped. Desertion is rampant. The camps are riddled with typhus and dysentery. About a quarter of the army is sick or absent. At this critical juncture, Washington is racked with indecision. He fears the British landing on Long Island may be a diversion, and so holds back more than half his army to defend Manhattan and the Hudson River. His troops on Long Island are widely dispersed. 6,000 under Israel Putnam are in fortifications around Brooklyn. 3,000 more, under Generals Sullivan and Sterling, hold forested hills to Putnam's front. They are spread over 4 miles and must guard the 3 main passes through the heights of Guan. At dawn on the 27th of August, they are attacked by 5,000 redcoats. The crackle of muskets and roar of cannon fills the air as volleys are traded. It's the first time the Continentals have faced the enemy on open ground, and so far, they are holding their own. But it is a trap. As Sullivan sends troops from his centre to reinforce Sterling, he hears the sound of gunfire to his rear. To his horror, he realizes he has been outflanked. General Howe has used a 4th, lesser-known pass to swing round the American line with 10,000 troops. 5,000 Hessians now charge forward in the centre. These German troops have a fearsome reputation and terrify the Americans. In an instant, order and discipline are gone. It is a race to escape. Only the 1st Maryland and Delaware battalions, regarded as the Army's finest, hold their ranks. Outnumbered 10 to 1, the 1st Maryland mounts a desperate rearguard action and is cut to pieces. Washington, watching from Brooklyn, is appalled.
Good God, what brave fellows I must this day lose.
The disaster at Long Island is a major blow to the American cause. There are just 400 British casualties. The Americans lose more than 2,000, including Generals Sterling and Sullivan, both captured, though they are later exchanged on parole. The rest of the Continentals flee into Brooklyn, where their backs are now against the East River. An immediate assault by Howe might have ended the rebellion that very day. But fearing a second Bunker Hill, and believing the Americans are trapped, he instead orders his men to begin digging siege lines. The following day, there is torrential rain. Washington's position is perilous. The only reason he's not been cut off by the British fleet is a steady northeasterly wind, which could change at any moment. Early on the 30th, under cover of darkness and a fortuitous morning fog, Washington evacuates his army across the East River to Manhattan. It is a silent, disciplined and organized withdrawal. An American lieutenant recalls,
"In the history of warfare, I do not recollect a more fortunate retreat."
Washington has narrowly avoided catastrophe. But the onslaught has only just begun. September 1776. 2 weeks after his victory at Long Island, General Howe has paused his advance to offer peace terms. He earnestly hopes some form of reconciliation is still possible. In fact, he and his brother, Admiral Richard Howe, alongside their military commands, have been appointed peace commissioners, authorized by King and Parliament to issue pardons and restore peace to the colonies. But in a meeting with Congressmen John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Edward Rutledge, nothing is achieved.
Forces have been sent out and towns have been burnt. We cannot now expect happiness under the domination of Great Britain. All former attachments have been obliterated.
About half of New York's population has already fled the city. Many who remain are loyalists. With British ships anchored in the Hudson and East Rivers, Washington decides he must abandon the city. On the 12th of September, he begins the evacuation. Troops and wagons are still leaving 3 days later when Howe strikes at Kips Bay. 4,000 British and German troops, supported by 80 naval guns, face little opposition. The Continental Army dissolves into a stream of fugitives as the British consolidate their bridgehead. Washington attempts to rally his men, but is ignored. The general snaps.
Are these the men with which I am to defend America?
Later that day, General Howe enters New York to a hero's welcome.
Thus this town, which these blustering rebels had taken such wonderful pains to fortify, was given up in 2 or 3 hours without any defense or the least appearance of a manly resistance.
The following day, the Americans repulse a British column advancing on Harlem Heights. A small reprieve, but as noted by Pastor Schukirk of New York,
the merry tones on drums and fifes had ceased.
The sick, the aged, women and children, half naked, were taking refuge from the fire. The terror was increased by the horrid noise of the burning and falling houses, the confused voices of so many men, the shrieks and cries of the women and children.
On the hot and dry night of the 20th of September 1776, fire consumes nearly 1/4 of New York City. It is not clear whether it was started by accident or on purpose, but it is a heavy blow to those still living in the city, especially with winter approaching. In October, the British are on the move again. They sail up the East River with 12,000 men, looking to outflank the rebels. They land at Pell's Point. After a sharp fight, Washington is forced to withdraw to White Plains. 10 days later, Howe attacks again. Hessian troops of Colonel Rowell's regiment charge forward, driving the rebels back to Chatterton Hill. Here they hold firm, pouring heavy fire into the advancing columns. But eventually, British and Hessian numbers tell. The Delaware Blues form the rearguard as Washington's men beat a hasty retreat. The battle costs both sides around 200 casualties. Defeat after defeat has caused American morale to plummet. Almost half the army has deserted. More do so every day. Washington's leadership is called into question. Charles Lee, his second in command, who has just returned from South Carolina, writes,
"He has that fatal indecision of mind, which in war is a much greater disqualification than stupidity, or even want of personal courage."
Many now look to Lee to save the cause, especially after Washington blunders again. 15 miles south of White Plains, well behind the British lines, 2,800 Continentals hold a fort that bears Washington's name. Built to block British ships from entering the Hudson, it has proven totally ineffective. But Washington dithers, leaving the decision to withdraw to General Greene, who decides to keep the isolated garrison in place. On the morning of the 16th of November, Howe launches an assault on the fort with 8,000 men from all directions. The fighting lasts all morning, but by midday, the entire American garrison has been captured or killed. The British have inflicted yet another major blow on the rebel cause. The invasion of New York has been a stunning success for Howe. New Jersey will be next. With British troops crossing the Hudson in force, Washington retreats across New Jersey to the Delaware River. A pursuit begins. He has fewer than 6,000 men, but hopes to pick up new volunteers en route. Instead, he finds the population in a state of apathy.
A thick cloud of darkness and gloom covered the land, and despair was seen in almost every countenance.
On the 30th of November, Howe issues a proclamation offering a pardon to all rebels who swear a new oath of allegiance to the crown. In the words of a New Jersey farmer writing to his family,
You can come down and receive protection, and return home without molestation on the part of the king's troops. And you best know the situation of the provincial army. He who stays out to the last will undoubtedly fare the worst.
thousands in New Jersey and New York will eventually swear the oath. Among them 2 former members of Congress and Richard Stockton, signatory of the Declaration of Independence. On the 1st of December 1776, enlistments expire for half of Washington's army. Without a second thought, 2,000 men leave for home. As snow begins to fall, Washington's depleted band retreats across the Delaware, destroying any boats they can't take with them. Philadelphia is evacuated in chaos. Congressman Robert Morris recalls,
Our people knew not the hardships and calamities of war when they so boldly dared Britain to arms. Every man was then a bold patriot, felt himself equal to the contest. But now, when we are fairly engaged, when death and ruin stare us in the face, and when nothing but the most intrepid courage can rescue us from contempt and disgrace, sorry I am to say it. Many of those who were foremost in noise now shrink, coward-like, from the danger, and are begging pardon without striking a blow.
For Howe, the campaign is won. He returns to New York, leaving 14,000 men to garrison New Jersey for the winter, and issue a growing list of pardons. He also sends General Clinton to retake Newport, Rhode Island, which he does without losing a man. A few days later, Washington's second-in-command, General Lee, is staying in a tavern some distance from his troops, when he is surprised by British cavalry and captured. Many of his 5,000 troops take the chance to desert. The ones who stay dutifully march with General Sullivan to join Washington on the Delaware. But even with these reinforcements, the Continental Army can barely muster 6,000 men. And enlistments for most of these soldiers will expire in just a couple of weeks. With the fate of America in the balance, Washington decides to risk everything on a bold strike. Washington's plan of attack is bold and complex. 3 columns will cross the freezing Delaware River at night, at 3 separate points, and attack the Hessian garrison at Trenton before dawn. Ewing and Cadwalader will lead 2 of the columns in diversionary attacks on Assunpink Creek Bridge and Bordentown, while Washington's main column, 2,400 strong, crosses upriver, splits into 2 wings, and surrounds the town from west and north. The operation begins at dusk on the 25th of December, Christmas Day. The Delaware is fast-moving, clogged with ice, and nearly 300 yards wide. Ferrying men, guns and horses across it, in the dark, in flat-bottomed boats, amid hail and snow, is an act of stunning audacity. Thanks to experienced oarsmen among the Pennsylvania militia and artillery companies, the crossing is completed without disaster. But Washington's column arrives on the far bank 3 hours behind schedule, while Ewing and Cadwallader both abort their missions. Washington decides to push on regardless. The weather is so bad, he reasons, the enemy will surely not expect an attack. His troops split into 2 columns as planned and begin their advance. They make slow progress through the blizzard, but the men remain in good order and are determined. Trenton is garrisoned by 1,400 Hessian soldiers under Colonel Rowell. He's been warned about an imminent attack, but after a skirmish with some American militia on Christmas Day, believes that threat to have passed. So that night, amidst a blizzard, on Christmas, his guard is down. Shortly after dawn, Washington attacks. Greene's men drive Hessian outposts back into town. As the garrison forms up in the streets, Knox positions his cannon to fire on them. Then Sullivan's men charge into the town with bayonets fixed. They seize the Assunpink Creek Bridge. Rowell is mortally wounded, attempting to organize a counterattack. It's all over in less than an hour. The Hessians lose 100 killed and wounded and 900 captured. The Americans, just 5 wounded. It is a stunning and much-needed victory. As the Hessian prisoners are marched back to Philadelphia, morale soars in Washington's army. But the campaign is not done yet. Howe, learning of the disaster, sends General Cornwallis and 8,000 men to hunt down and destroy Washington's army. With enlistments on the verge of expiring, Washington makes an appeal to the army.
My brave fellows, you have done all I asked you to do, and more than could be reasonably expected. But your country is at stake, your wives, your houses, and all that you hold dear. You have worn yourselves out with fatigues and hardships, but we know not how to spare you. If you will consent to stay 1 month longer, you will render that service to the cause of liberty and to your country which you can probably never do under any other circumstance.
His stirring words, and a bounty worth 2 months' pay, convince almost all the troops to stay. Leaving 1,200 men to hold Princeton, Cornwallis advances on Trenton. His march is slowed by rebel riflemen and a sudden thaw which turns the roads to mud. When he arrives, he finds the rebels entrenched behind Assunpink Creek. Probing attacks are defeated and cost 300 British casualties. With darkness approaching, Cornwallis decides to wait until morning to launch a full-scale attack. This is just what Washington wants. Overnight, his men march north in silence through rugged country to attack the garrison at Princeton. They arrive at the perfect moment, just as the British are setting off to join Cornwallis. They form line just in time to meet the American attack. there is sharp fighting. At first, the British have the better of it. Then, Washington charges into the fray. An American officer witnesses the moment.
I shall never forget what I felt when I saw him brave all the dangers of the field, and his important life hanging as it were by a single hair, with 1,000 deaths flying around him.
Outnumbered, under heavy fire, the British fall back in disorder. They have suffered around 400 casualties. The Americans lose fewer than 100 men. Princeton is another stunning victory for the Americans. Perhaps Washington's greatest operational flourish. But the Continental Army is exhausted, low on supplies, and surrounded by dangers. Washington is persuaded not to risk more. He makes for Morristown to find safe winter quarters. The battles of Trenton and Princeton are neither large nor particularly costly for the British. They are, however, desperately needed rays of hope in the Patriots' darkest hour. What's more, as the Continental Army continues to prove its mettle against the British, foreign observers are taking notice. In the royal courts of France and Spain, there are many who would delight to see their old British rival humiliated, and their own defeats avenged. The rebellion in Britain's American colonies is about to become a global war. Do you want to be first to watch Epic History's biggest series ever? We're finally covering the epic saga of World War II, from the escalating tension of the 1930s right through to its devastating final chapters in Germany and Japan. Using hours of brilliant archive footage and detailed maps, we'll be charting the origins and course of history's most devastating conflict, exploring every front, every campaign, and every turning point. And you can see every new episode first on prestige streaming service Nebula. Nebula is the video platform built and curated by creators like us, featuring original, funny, fascinating, and insightful content, all made by talented humans. It's packed with videos on history, engineering, tech, and current affairs, including a growing number of Nebula originals which you can't see anywhere else. A yearly subscription to Nebula normally costs $60. Our link gets you 50% off. That's just $30 for year-round entertainment. Plus first access to all our new videos. Thanks to all our existing Nebula subscribers. And for everyone else watching, we hope to see you there soon. Big thanks to our historical consultant, Professor Frank Cogliano of the University of Edinburgh. And thanks, as always, to the Patreon supporters who help to make this channel possible. From builders, such as Ben, Dustin Borchardt, and Zed Borders, to citizens like It's Wedged Soda, Mia Natas, and Craig, and heroes like Nick Macarius. And now you can also support the channel by joining the ranks of the Grognards, our valued YouTube members who gain access to loyalty badges, custom emojis, and merch discounts. Click the membership link on our channel page to sign up now.
midnight train going anywhere. Just a city boy, born and raised in South Detroit. He took the midnight train going anywhere. A singer in a smoky room, the smell of wine and cheap perfume. Paul
sure you will find many ways to have a good time. Sing it! It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. You can get yourself clean. You can have a good meal. You can do whatever you feel. Well, young man, are you listening to me? I say, young man, what do you want to be? I say, young man, you can make real your dreams, but you've got to know this one thing. No man does it all by himself. I said, young man, put your pride on the shelf and just go there to the YMCA. I'm sure they can help you today. I'm fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They can get yourself clean. You can have a good meal. You can do whatever you feel. Well, young man, I was once in your shoes. I said I was down and out with the blues. I thought no man cared if I were alive. I thought, was so jive. That's when someone came up to me and said, young man, take a walk up the street. There's a place there called the YMCA. It's start you back on your way. Come on, sing it like you mean it. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your man to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. Oh, young man, there's no need to feel down. Young man, get yourself off the ground. YMCA. And if the elevator doesn't bring you down, go crazy. Reach a higher floor.